used to just say, let's do whys,
Right.
but I'm going to say, let's find drivers first. That's where, if we're going to start setting goals, what is the thing that gets you moving? What's the motor inside really focused on?
All right. So what's up, Kenneth? How are you, brother? How you doing today?
Very good, James. How are you doing?
Man, it's always a pleasure getting to talk with you. And now I get to see you more now, which is nice.
It is.
Always a pleasure. I know you've had some changes now with the business, and we're gonna get into that. We kind of talked a little bit about what I'm focusing a little bit more on as far as my YouTube channel and all my social media. So I'm now really focused on being able to do things and get guests on to help veterans specifically. That's kind of where, as a veteran myself, I'm kind of targeting more veterans to be able to help them, not only with real estate, but just, what you specialize in with, human capacity, which we'll get to your podcast as well, and just the well-being. I mean, there's so many veterans, even in the Houston area. Like, we've got over 330,000 veterans here, but worldwide, obviously, there's a ton of veterans. And unfortunately, a lot of these guys and girls are not doing well on the health front, right? And so we'll get a little bit into that, what your, some things that you may be able to help people with as far as goals go, as it relates to getting our health in order. We're more than halfway through the year, but it's never a bad time to start working. You don't have to wait on January to roll around and start working on your health and fitness, or not even just health and fitness, just your health and mental health, right? Mental health, which is also another big topic for veterans. But for people that may not know you, just give us a quick introduction about, what your company does, and we'll jump in and kind of see if we can help some people today.
Perfect. Well, I own a company called Authentic. I would describe myself as an elevation performance mindset coach. So I ultimately really dive into small groups, teams, business teams, and individuals alike, and hopefully giving them tools, habits, processes to get from point A to point B, or to get from a goal to the next goal, or they're struggling in an area and they're wanting to just elevate their life. I really dive into the kind of interpersonal side of things and help them really get to where they want to get to, overcome the things they're wanting to overcome, see changes in their life that they're wanting to see, and really help them, I think, focus in on the areas that seem to be difficult for them to see change is really where I'm focused in on.
So obviously you got a huge fitness background.
Yes.
That is, and you're very, very much still into it personally. Obviously, you
Yes.
take care of yourself, working out and so forth. So I know one of the things that I mentioned to you before is that I wanted you to kind of talk about goals and being able to help people start. You and I, again, we're both very much into the health, fitness aspect of things, but I do want to maybe get into maybe some things that you may be able to assist with as far as goals go, like how people can go about setting goals, not just health goals, but just goals in general. Just keep it general for the moment, because I know a lot of this stuff it's going to translate, right? The health, your fitness, your mind, all that stuff. And you and I know it's all connected. You can't separate it. I mean, it's all working as one unit, essentially. So I want you to kind of give some steps for people to maybe, veterans, we are, a lot of us are real just gung-ho, but when we get out of the military, there's not a lot of direction. Even to this day, I've been out for 20 years, and there's still not a lot of direction for these guys when they get out of the military as to what they want to do, setting goals, being able to set a goal as to what you want to do. Because a lot of people will get out and they have no clue as to what they're going to do when they get out. Unfortunately, a lot of the positions that are in the military don't translate to the outside world. My job, I was a Morse code translator, Kenneth. There's no civilian job that I could have translated into.
Yes.
Translated that to. So I want you to kind of dip in, talk a little bit about goal setting, what your process is for that, how you work with people when it comes to goals. It doesn't, again, any type of goals.
So I originally, when I've done this podcast with you before, really moved from a place, simply just said, what's your why?
Right.
And I've upgraded that a little bit more into, I actually think that we should spend time before we talk about our why and being able to figure out what our personal driver is.
Mhm.
And especially in the military, you get so many different personalities of really what motivates or gets someone moving. So I'm
Right.
going to kind of give a few drivers and examples. One, you might be one who enjoys instruction. So in the military, you do really well with someone telling you what to do.
Yep.
You really focus in on, if I can just follow instruction and I can almost machine myself, I'll do really well. Another driver might be emotional. So you are seeking happiness, or you're seeking love, or you're seeking fulfillment, or you're seeking something along those lines. And so you're emotionally driven. Another might be purpose. So your kids might be your purpose. Your wife might be your purpose. Getting healthy might be your purpose.
Yep.
They're wanting to be an example for your unhealthy parents. Something along the lines is a purpose driven.
Yep.
And then the fourth one I ultimately talk about is personal happiness. So depression might be this category, sadness might be this category. These areas, these drivers, are really where I kind of put people in this category of figuring out what your driver is first.
Right.
And then understanding that your goals should fall under those drivers. If you're someone who enjoys instruction very well,
Yep.
one of your goals might not be spending more time with your family. And I'm not saying that your goal is not to spend more time with your family, but I'm saying if you're a driver of someone who wants instruction, I would then have a goal of finding a coach that I'm comfortable following.
Right.
So again, if you're going to find your drivers, you're going to find a way in which actually gets you to produce change, because that's what we're wanting to do in goals. Is there's no point in setting goals if the goals don't actually get us to start producing change.
Absolutely.
So finding the driver is first, and then setting the goals under those drivers that are going to get us to start taking action.
Mm-hmm.
If we're really going to talk military, Tony Robbins heavily talks about one of the greatest ways for you to produce change is to actually see change. So you actually see it happening.
Right.
So again, if you're in the military or ex-military and you say, I used to run this mile time.
Right.
All of a sudden you get up and you do a 10-minute mile, and you used to do a 7-minute mile. Then seeing change would make that 10-minute mile go to 9:45. Now all of a sudden you're kind of producing this momentum, and you've had a coach that says, okay, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen.
Yep.
If you're emotionally driven, I want you to think we should start setting goals and being able to achieve more emotional. So I would say, if fitness is your goal, find a community. Maybe that's a cycle class, maybe that's Orange Theory, maybe that's CrossFit, that you can get in community and it makes you feel better. It makes you feel emotions you're wanting to feel.
Yep.
If you're purpose driven, now I really talk about whys. If I want to get healthy for my kids because I want to see them graduate, or I want to go on vacation and I can't go on vacation, or I'm struggling with some PTSD and I'm interacting with my family in an unhealthy manner and I want to change that. So now your purpose ends up really being focused in on ironing out the issue that you're wanting to iron out.
Yep.
And then if you're wanting personal, I'm going to be honest with you, I probably fall under purpose and personal. I have a little bit of both in my category.
Yep.
To where if I can feel myself, the work is worth the purpose. And then I'm also feeling I'm currently going through some personal things on my end. If I can find myself getting kind of strength through the personal things, then I find myself getting more momentum.
Right.
So I used to just say, let's do whys.
Right.
But I'm going to say, let's find drivers first. That's where, if we're going to start setting goals, what is the thing that gets you moving? What's the motor inside that really focused on?
So a lot of what you said is bringing me, reminding me, because and you and I'm sure you know, so you and I follow a lot of the same people. So I'm reading Ed Milet book right now, Power of One More.
Yes.
And what you just said is like spot on. Is spot on what he's saying, and it's really, even for me, because I'm really driven. Is what I listen to podcast. I do all that, the goals. But what Ed Milet was talking about is And you call it driver. I think he just refers to it as a standard. And to me, it's very, very similar. And what he said is that the goal, yes, set the goal, yes, but we got to figure out what are you willing to tolerate, number one. If you're, and you brought up, hey, the purpose, hey, I want to get healthy because I want to see my kids graduate. You got to tie some emotion to it, and you said this spot on. So it's spot on. And what he basically is saying, like, yeah, set the goal, but you really got to be focused on your standards. What are you willing to accept on a daily basis, weekly, whatever that is? You have to have the standard, and that is where the focus really needs to be. It's the, and you coming from, I mean, obviously you've been in that bodybuilding where you get this, because you can't just transform your body like that. It's the standard. It's a standard. What am I and then what are you willing to tolerate? Are you willing to tolerate unhealthiness? If you are, it's going to be hard to make a change, no matter what the goal is. If you can tolerate being out of shape, overweight, if you can tolerate just not feeling good, and people do it all the time. You know better than I do, because you deal with a lot of people, a lot more people than I do. But this is so spot on. And what Ed Malak was talking about is, yes, have a goal, but man, you got to work on your standards. What are you willing? This has got to be the standard for you, whatever it is. Set a standard for yourself. That standard will get you to the goal if you do it consistently.
I really like standard as a good one. The tough one with standard is, I have recognized numerous people have said this, but one of the greatest failures we can do as people is set a goal that we know we can achieve, and then we do it, and then what?
Right.
So I think when we start setting standards, we actually have to set a standard that kind of makes us uncomfortable, and that's a tough one.
Yes.
Is don't set a standard that you know you can do.
Right. Yeah.
And I would really maybe put standard, if you're really wanting to produce change and do identity,
Yep.
It would be like the smoker who says, I want to quit smoking, but still says, I'm a smoker.
Right.
That person is identified as the smoker. And so you're never going to give up the habit if you're still saying, I'm the smoker. And I've equally noticed, you just kind of said it with the military thing. Once you get out of it, you say, I once was. Well, that also goes with all the healthy habits or the discipline or the thing was I once was.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that was your job title, but there was also something in you that also got you to, I was the 7-minute mile runner. I was the pull-up guy. I was the person who did diet. And so when we do identity, you said I'm a bodybuilder. I think for a long time, if I'm really kind of being vulnerable, I was nervous in actually introducing myself as the bodybuilder, because I knew there was some cliche, and I would find myself heavily battling against it, even as a public speaker now, to where I don't really want to be known as the bodybuilder. But if I'm being honest, I am the bodybuilder. I hit my meals, I do my cardio, I do my training. So I do identify myself as the bodybuilder habits.
Right.
What I don't identify myself is the kind of universal bodybuilder mindset or mind part of the category. I had a few people recently start training with me, and they'd say you guys or y'all, and kind of throw me in this meathead category. And then they spend an hour with me communicating, and they say, well, you're not like. So they've equally done some identity things there also. And I think when we start wanting to set goals, we don't realize the unconscious identities or standards that we have for ourselves. Like, food's one. I no longer eat fast food. I'm not someone who eats fast food. Like, you want to give up fast food, don't say I'm going to only do it once a week. Say I'm the person who doesn't eat fast food. Now there's that standard that you start doing the identity part.
Right.
And that's who you are now. And that's really where we can start producing changes. I am the person who goes to the gym.
Yep.
I am the person who does get good sleep. I am the person who does hit my water or my cardio. Fill in the blank of the goal. And I think some of the most powerful words are I am,
Yep.
I will. Those things are really powerful for ourselves, because they are our self-talk to our unconscious. And if we're wanting to produce change, we have to start talking to ourselves differently.
So, Joel Osteen has a book, or had, best-selling book, The Power of I Am. And you're
Mhm.
100% right. It's a great book, and every part of it is it's about identity. Like you're so right with this, where people will say, "I am fill in the blank." Whatever comes after that "I am" is like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, and so you got to figure out and make sure you're very conscious of what you're putting after the "I am," like the smoker, right? So what would you tell like people that are really trying to make that change to get to where they're really trying to make a change to change their identity? Where do you start with people like that? I know you've mentioned purpose, obviously, but where do you start with somebody if when you start working with whether it's a company or an individual that's specifically trying to change like identity, which ultimately will lead to maybe some type of a goal change as well. But I think they kind of tie in. You have the goal, but to get that goal, you might really have to change your identity. What you're believing in yourself right now, and maybe what your actions are producing, are not going to get you to that goal that you're saying that you want.
James, you're asking some questions that we're going to start diving into some deeper stuff that isn't easy for everyone to really start getting into. So if you're listening to this, I want you to know this is where stuff starts getting hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to call two words: source or foundation of your identity. So source, I am someone who eats fast food. Let's dive all the way back and go, where did that come from?
Mhm.
Mom and dad. I grew up as a kid. That's how they ate.
Yep.
When I go to family events, that's how they eat. When I have my friends, when we go out as friends, that's where we eat.
Yeah.
So source, where is this coming from when we start saying, I am high blood pressure. Mom and dad is that way. Grandma and grandpa is that way. My family's that way.
Yeah.
Where is the source of that identity really coming from? So source meaning there's some cause somewhere backwards that lies in this. Foundation is the benefit that you are still receiving from keeping the identity. I am the person who eats fast food, and when I get stressed or unhappy, I eat fast food and it makes me feel good.
Right.
So now why are you still doing it? Because source is there.
Yep.
But if we have conscious decision and you're saying, I'm not that anymore, that's not there, and that means we're still receiving something.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to, I'm not this. So the foundation ends up being the part in our life that we are still leaning on that is giving us the reason, the excuse, the pleasure.
It's a habit. It's a habit. It's a bad habit. So yeah, the people fall back on their habits. Good or bad, they fall back on it. So go ahead. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, I mean,
I think it's tough because I avoid doing the habit because it almost says it has power.
right.
The habit has power when actuality, we do run from pain or run towards pleasure.
Yep.
And so again, if you're stressed, you're going, I don't want to feel stressed anymore. And for me, when I feel stressed, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm in breathing techniques. I'm in a cold plunge. I'm training. I'm putting myself into a book. When I'm feeling those things and I'm wanting to run from something, I run into something that's going to positively give me power, give me some type of tool, give me something that's going to move me towards a direction that's going to be beneficial. But if we're running towards alcohol, we're running towards a drug, we're running towards, we've talked in the military side of things, the VA unfortunately has a very bad habit of handing pills out. So it's the first thing that we put a pill in our mouth and it just makes it go numb. And sometimes numb feels better than all of the other tough things that we don't want to feel either. And so when we start doing source, it's where did it come from? Because I do think none of us as adults are living things simply because. There's always a source backwards. But then foundation is, why are we still doing it? Where is it still benefiting us? And maybe let's do husband and wife or kids. Why should I make my kids eat healthy? Yeah, neither here nor there. You're just reinforcing that source that we talked about. So again, do what you need to do. Maybe that's equally going to be 6 weeks, 6 months of fighting with your kids. I don't want to eat this healthy stuff. But again, you're breaking the source that they're going to one day be adults.
That's right.
And they're going to one day deal with the same foundational issues that you're dealing with now. So I understand you don't want to do the headache. I understand you don't want to do that fight. I get it. But no, you're putting the same thing that you struggled with into your kids now. And so I don't, my wife doesn't want to change diets, or I don't want to change diets, or whatever the feeling or situation is. I'm aware of it as a coach. I am not here saying ought to, should to. I'm simply going, if you want to produce change, if we want to set goals, let's first figure out where it's coming from before we just kind of set a goal like a sticky note on the mirror and just say that we're going to look at it every day, and it feels good that we looked at it every day, but nothing really happened.
Right.
Ed Milet actually tells a story that he went to his doctor, did blood work with his doctor. Doctor says, hey, I need you to come in immediately. Ed Milet's like, what do you mean immediately? And before he even gives him the results, the doctor goes, hey, I just want you to know there's going to be another man walking your daughter down the aisle when she gets married. And he's like, yo, what's on this test? Like, what do you, the doctor was very intelligent. He set like the pain, hey, no, you don't even know the results, but I'm going to go with, yo, if you don't get this under control, someone's going to marry your wife one day. Someone's going to walk your daughter down the aisle. Someone's going to run your business. And he's going, whatever's on this, I'm going to change it. So the doctor was very intelligent. So as a coach, I'm going, yo, I'm just simply going to shine a light on the areas of why you're doing this, where you're at. Now let's start doing maybe the pain scenarios. Cool. Don't change your habits. Find your source, find your foundation. Good. No big deal. We won't see your kids graduate high school. I'm not here to tell you, yes, you should, you shouldn't. If you don't want to get over the pain right now of dealing with the emotional thing that fast food fixes, cool. Just know you need to then right now deal with the fact you won't see them graduate high school. You won't see them graduate college. You won't see your grandkids, because we are getting to a point in our health right now that the United States, and I'm going to say just the United States, is going to start seeing more health detrimental things early. We now have more childhood obesity under the age of 12. We now have more child anxiety under the age of 12. We now have more child suicide under the age of 12. You now have more kids on some level of antidepressant under the age of 9. You now have scenarios where these kids are now dealing with issues that was seen in 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds.
Right.
And let's fast forward 10 years, those 9-year-olds now 21, they're going to be dealing with health issues that they will not be prepared for. And we have done nothing in giving them any tools or habits to really start changing it. So us as adults, we've got to start taking responsibility of this situation.
Yeah, the statistics are, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It's sad. I see it personally. Well, I see, and you're right. I mean, it's not the kid, it's the parents. It's not the kid. The parents are the ones that have habit, foundation, whatever you want to call it. They're just passing it on, and it's really, really sad when you look at the amount of information that is out there about taking care of yourself. I mean, it's everywhere. There's so much information. We're in the information age, and yet we still have kids, like you just mentioned, under 12. Obesity is running rampant, and it just gets worse. Now, part of that is just our lifestyles, but I don't like to use that as an excuse. You work, we work, parents work. I get it. Nowadays, I just don't like to use that as an excuse to have to go eat fast food, for example, right? Just because it's coming. Because there's healthy fast food. There's a lot of different ways to be able to take care of yourself. And more importantly, if you're not going to do it for you, do it for the kid. So that kind of ties back to what you were saying. Having the driver. Like, what's the driver? Like, if you won't do it for yourself, and I know there are people that they won't do stuff for themselves, but they'll do it for me. It's my kid, right? I think about certain things and I'm like, I don't want to do whatever, but then I think about my son or my daughter and like, like I would do anything for them. So getting people to make that shift, I know it's not an easy thing, but man, it's so necessary. It is incredibly necessary to get. But yeah, no, I've got people that literally they won't do it for themselves. They just won't. Or you do it for somebody else. So I want you to talk a little bit about what you're doing now with your company. Kind of changed a few things as to what you guys are doing with Authentic. So talk a little bit about that.
So Authentic originally was really focused on, when I said lifestyle, very driven on nutrition and exercise. And I've spent the last kind of 3 years really recognizing that the group of people, my community, needed more. And so I really dove into more, and I really started diving into how do I best elevate even my own company, my own program, my own services to be able to serve more people, to be able to provide more value. So we moved into a category where now we start taking their full life. We say from health to wealth. And so we are going to work from blood work, gut health, sleep, goal setting, vision board, self-talk, exercise, nutrition, wealth management, education around communication. We're really going to start diving into being able to say the whole human needs help if a single part of the human wants to start producing change. And so our phrase that we use here within Authentic is we want to empower both single people and teams alike in a way that what once seemed impossible becomes possible. And so I really start thinking of, I want to get healthy. It seems impossible sometimes. I want to make more money. It seems impossible sometimes. I want to have more energy, but I don't sleep. It seems impossible sometimes. And so we're really here to give tools, habits, processes, community, books, motivation, inspiration, whatever the tool ends up needing to be. Let's say team dynamics, there's 30 people. 30 people bringing up that team are not going to need the same service. Right. They're not going to need the same tools and habits. We just talked about drivers. Like, how am I going to walk into a team and say, here you go, and expect the 30 people to digest it completely and produce the same change? It's an outdated way of thinking. Yep. You brought up we're in an information kind of time in this world. More people are aware of their differences. They might not know how to make changes, but they're aware that I'm different than him, and I'm different than her, and I'm different. And so Authentic needed to elevate itself to be able to give value to all the different and honor all of the different. I'm not here to tell you you should do it different.
Right.
But if we've got 30 people and we're all agreeing that we're heading towards the same goal, then I've got to somehow get us headed in the same direction with all these differences, that we want to be honored and we want to be heard and we want to be seen. We're all running by some level of habits that we're unconsciously or consciously doing.
Yep.
So I'm good with the differences, but these tools, habits, and processes can be implemented in some form or fashion that can start getting us in the same direction.
Yep.
So we've launched a podcast called Human Capacity.
Yeah.
Human Capacity was mainly focused in on two main things. I want to share stories that either inspire you, or I want to share stories that ultimately break your excuses to show you that unfortunately what you're saying is impossible is not,
right,
because this person's done it. I started with a young cheerleader. She did 7 years of college cheerleading and an all-star, and she's a rock star. And then the next episode, I had a dude who was 6'4", 350 from the hood that started an apparel company, that done 8 years in prison, that had seen numerous friends die as a kid, that struggles with not having food in a family of 9. I want to tell stories that ultimately go, this person can do it, this person can do it. Yeah. If you feel like you're this person, or you feel like you're this person, here's some examples of what humans are really capable of. And then I want to ask, how the hell did you do it? Because again, if we're doing tools, habits, and processes, it feels good and warm and fuzzy to see it, but now tell me how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So Human Capacity is really focused in on that. We've got a 6-week challenge that you're going to see 6 different coaches across the 6 weeks. from health, nutrition, breath work, wealth, that's going to ultimately give you tools and habits, however you see fit, to be able to start getting and producing change.
Yep.
I've started moving into school assemblies and doing more public speaking with college teams and high school teams. I just got done speaking with the cheerleading Conroe ISD cheerleading group just a few weeks back.
Yep.
I work with businesses under 100 employees. So I come into the business and I figure out where we're kind of missing areas, how we can implement, how we can do communication. Simon Sinek does a similar product of being able to just go in and work with businesses. So Authentic has moved into a realm of elevation in performance.
Okay.
And I say ultimately with a focus of team dynamics and singular internal and external performance. So we got to have people got to dive into some of this part. We do some journaling, some shadow work, some things like this.
Yep.
And then we also got to go, what's outside of us that's prohibiting us from doing some things. So Authentic has really elevated itself into a broad, what the hell do you need?
Yep.
How the hell are we going to get there? And what the hell do you need to change to make that possible?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So what is the best way? So people trying to connect with you, what is the best place for people to go? Website, social, what is the best way for people to connect? And the people that businesses may want to connect with you as well. What's the best way to do that?
Authentic is normal spelling and then change the C to a K.
Yep.
And so KennethAuthentic@gmail.com is my email.
Yep.
My Instagram, which I'm extremely active on Instagram, is @KennethAuthentic. My other business page is Authentic Elevation. My website is www.AuthenticElevation.com.
Yep.
I have a YouTube. We'll have the YouTube link on there. I would say it's normally easy. Authentic, again, is the only page for it.
Right.
But YouTube makes it overly difficult to actually find pages too much these days. So we'll just put the link here so you'll see the YouTube page. And really, I want you to know, getting in contact with me is just the beginning, because again, you can reach out and you can see my page and you can do those things. But if you don't actually send the DM, if you don't actually send the email, if you don't actually do the thing, we're not going to produce change, and you haven't gotten in contact with us at all. So just by following us, just by doing those things, it might feel warm and fuzzy, but you haven't really done the work to really start producing change until you start interacting with us personally. So
gotta put the work in.
Yeah.
Gotta put the work in.
Yes.
There's no easy way. I wish there was, but there's no easy way of doing it. You got to put the work in, and it goes back to just kind of like what's important, like what really matters, and just doing it for the sake of doing it. For a lot of people, that's not going to get them. I can get them to do the work, but family, daughter. But that Ed Milet story was. I'm glad you brought that up, because he tells that story a lot, and it just hits every time he tells it. It hits home for me, because I've got a daughter, and I listen to him talk about, the thought of him not being able to walk his daughter down the aisle, that was the one that did it for him. So
can you imagine if more of our medical community started interacting with patients in that manner, though, where it wasn't like, hey, here's a pill. It was actually like, yo, I know how to talk to this person right now to get them to produce change, because I don't want to see them back in my office in 2 years doing a heart transplant or doing a stent or doing X, Y, and Z. Like, I need to say something right now that's going to get them to produce change, or else we're just doing this cycle game that it.
Yeah.
So, and I think maybe I'm going to send caution, and this is the first time I've probably done this, but I've recognized people have started reaching out to me, and a lot of what I say and speak and you see on social media is that like rah, like, man, I'm going to put quotes out and I'm going to make you feel good. And then I do a call with you and you're kind of like, I'm going to say the things to you to produce the change.
Right.
I am here on the end of your greatest version of yourself. Right. I am not here for you to keep doing this process and 3 years from now I see that you passed away, or 3 years from now you sit here and you lost your job, or 3 years away, like, that's not why I'm here. It's gonna hurt me more to realize you didn't pull the trigger if I didn't say the thing that you at least heard, because I can walk away going, you know what, I said what I needed to say, for them to make the educated decision to start changing their life. So before you send the DM, before you bring me out, before you do those things, no, I'm going to say the thing that's like, we are going to start producing change. Warm and fuzzy feels good, but
Yeah.
we got to start producing change, and I want to be the change in the world that I want to see. So
Love it, man. That's a great way to end. Be the change that you want to see. I've heard this quote over and over, and it's true. People want to change everything else. Like, hold on, why don't you just start with you first? Start with you, and then you start to affect other people. But I think a lot of people want to go about it the opposite way. They want you to change, you, and pointing the finger like, nah, you need to turn it around and start with yourself. So, man, I appreciate this, Kenneth. I'm gonna get all your contact information obviously linked up. Put that all in the show notes on YouTube, and then I'll have it posted as well on social media. But we will do this again. There's much more to talk about. But I appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Make sure you go check it out. So, Kenneth, Authentic Elevation, or you still have Authentic? I know you said this, but say it one more time as far as the website.
Yep. Website is www.authenticelevation.com.
Got it.
And Instagram is Kenneth Authentic with a K, and Authentic Elevation for your other business page. So,
got you. All right, brother. I appreciate you guys. Yes, go check out Kenneth on social. Great follow on Instagram. You are very entertaining. love your IG. But go check out the IG, and go check Kenneth out on Authentic Elevation as well. So, Kenneth, appreciate you, brother. You guys, I will see you guys on the next episode. We will have Kenneth back for sure, and we'll see you soon.